And you are listening to the Old Tube Radio Network.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen,
greetings to you.
Wherever you are, for music and the latest news from home and from afar, the station for you is
OTR, Old Tube Radio.
The station for you is
OTR.
All right, the station for you is OTR. I think the Jingle Singers only made it to the internet stream. So we'll see why their microphone cords aren't connected to the big board here. But in the meantime, I know you will be connected, and we will be listening for your Tube Radio check-ins.
Break.
45.
25.
Break. I got some 6 LQ6s for sale, 80 to 100%.
All right, we've got 2 radios and some tubes. Let me let the radio guys know. Paul, stand by. We'll get to you first here on the radio list, and then we'll go over to Jerry, SWL 25, and then let me check with Jack. I think that is. Tell me about your tubes. Over.
Yeah, I happen to get Sporter 6 LQ6s. They're 80 to 100%.
Okay, 6 LQ6s. Those should be tubes that would work possibly in an amplifier. I think the 101s, the Yaesu FT 101s, use those as well, and maybe in some various other items. So if you're interested in some 6 LQ6s, what frequency do you hang out on, Jack?
I don't, you can probably get a hold of me on Facebook, Jack Donaldson.
Okay, that'll be a good way to do it. And then it sounds like you've checked them, so you're saying they're between 60 and 80%?
Yeah, somebody else tests them.
All right, we'll make a note of that, and if you want to come in at the end of the net here and check in again, not a problem on the 6 LQ6 tubes. Thanks. Speaking of tubes, this is a place where you will hear the radios that used, maybe not those tubes, but tubes that look just like them, kind of. The old Tube Radio Network, the vintage radios from 1958 to 1978 with the tubes in them. Speaking of tubes, let's see how many we can rack up tonight. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Dennis. I'd like to check in my T-Craft Falcon Mark V radio phone.
Boy, that is a mouthful. And we'll see if indeed we might have a picture of the T-Craft Falcon Mark V radio phone. I think we do, and that'll be a nice little addition to the great audio that it is producing. Over.
Yeah, that radio looks like mine, but it isn't like mine. They made a Model A and they made a Model D, quite a different models on the thing, and they're different radios. Looking the same, they look the same exactly. But mine has all crystals. The one you look at the picture there is a crystals and a VFO receive on the thing. Mine has a TNS, which has twin noise squelch, the suppressor, and boy, I'll tell you, the thing works. I'll get back to you here, and then I'll continue on when you get done with you.
All right, well, it's got great audio, very, very sharp. And when I say sharp, like articulate style audio, no problem copying you at all. We'll take a look at the S-meter on the way back, but we're talking about T-Craft, T-E-A-C-R-A-F-T. It's a Falcon Mark V radio phone. Looks like it's crystal controlled on the channels and had the ability to go mobile with the 6 or the 12 volt DC. So that's got to be an early 60s radio. Over.
Yeah, it's a big radio. It'd be a big one for a mobile. Back then they could cram them underneath the dish. We can't do it now in our cars. The other thing is, it's really a neat radio. It's got a nice meter on it, an S meter on the thing, and got a an on switch, which is a toggle switch. And that's stock with these radios. I don't know why they think with that. The straight toggle switch that comes on. Of course, you got the volume, the squelch, and it's really a clean little radio. It's got a front bar speaker on the thing. But like I say, you can tune and listen to one channel on this one and talk on the other one. You receive and tune on the same radio, but you're talking on different and listen on different channels. It's quite a unique radio. The other one that you got a picture of, you can't do that with. But anyway, like I say, that twin noise squelch on the thing is, they call it TNS, is a suppressor. And boy, I'll tell you, this thing is really super quiet. The radio didn't sell for that much. It sold for $189.95. That's the one with the TNS on the thing. The one without it sold for $169, which is not too bad, I'll tell you that. Anyway, these things were manufactured in 1962 by T-Craft in Teterboro, New Jersey. Back to you, Dennis.
Okay, good information. I'm looking at your signal S9, which is pretty good. Sometimes you get an S8, sometimes you get an S9, depending on the radio. And I see the two, if you look at the S meter, I see there are two knobs on either side, so I'm assuming that is your, at least one of them should be your receive dial for tuning in any and all stations, right?
Yeah, you can do either one on the thing for 5 channels, 5 crystals.
All right, and there's also a switch underneath the meter that I don't see that it is, doesn't look like it's labeled, or if it is, I can't read it. Are you aware of what that switch might do?
That toggle switch is off and on.
Okay, this is the switch underneath, directly underneath the S meter, over.
Yeah, let's see if I can see what switch you're talking about there. One right below the S meter. Now that'd be the volume. Oh, okay, that'd be a VFO. That would be, I believe, no, it would be a VFO. You know what? You got me on that one. I'll have to check my specs on that thing. It's a flip switch. I guess I can flip it and see what happens to it.
All right. I wasn't trying to be 20 questions, but I'm looking at the picture, but I don't see that switch is labeled. You know, like it's an SRF or something like that. So I was intrigued as to, you're always intrigued when we get a radio with a mystery switch. So if you find out what that does, or if, maybe we shouldn't find out what it does, because the radio is working perfectly. It sounds great. Radio number 1 on our list at 845, T-Craft Falcon at the Mark V radio phone. We'll go back to you, Paul, for another transmission. Thanks for bringing it by to the Old Tube Radio Network.
Okay. I'll find an answer for that next time we talk on. So this thing has got the stock 350C ceramic microphone thing. No power or anything on it. Doesn't need it. And boy, I'll tell you, that's about it. Thanks for checking it in, Dennis.
Boy, thanks for bringing it by. That's why we are here every Saturday, and we've been doing this for well over 30 years, believe it or not, at 27085, Channel 11, thanks to our tube radio operators who have no problem finding the rare radios and keeping them up and going, and even the ones that aren't so rare. Whatever they've got, we'll check it in here. And speaking of checking in, let's head over to Jerry, who was on something glowing in the dark. Hello, 25.
Hello, DR.
Hello, Dennis, and my dad at 45, that audio is incredible. Anyway, 45 checking in on a General Radio Telephone MC5 with mystery microphone.
Okay, it's a mystery to me. Hopefully it is not a mystery to you, but you'll tell us a little bit more about it. We'll see if we can't grab a shot of a General Radio Telephone MC5, the Master Control Series, and breaking station. We've got you, so don't go away. We'll pick you up after the radio check-in. Speaking of which, I think we see an MC5. Back to you.
Okay, well, one of the cardinal sins on MC5 General Radio is not to wire up a powered mic, but I do it. But I have it tuned down very low. So if it's overmodulating or splattering, please let me know. But I will say that this particular mic makes the radio happy because it's got forward swing to it. So if it's a little hot, I can turn it down.
No, it is sounding good. In fact, if you want to if you want to adjust or make an adjustment, we can tell you what that does.
Okay. Well, actually, where it's sitting right there, I can actually bring it up to about there, and that's probably way too hot. So I'll bring it back down to where it was. Anyway, boy, it's been a challenge to figure out what's going on with this guy, and we finally kind of figured it out, and hopefully it sounds okay. But like I said, I kind of raised it up there on the power, and it probably was not good. So just let me know.
37.
All right, hello, 37. No, it sounds good. I didn't detect much difference when you changed the volume, at least for quality-wise. It all seemed to sound good, not much different, so I think you are looking good. The General Radio Telephone MC5 radio popular with the crowd around 1962. Same time the T-Craft Falcon was out. This one sold for just under $200, and probably their most advertised General Radio Telephone CB. If you've got some old catalogs, 11-meter CB style catalogs from late 1962 or 63, you will probably find maybe a half-page ad from General Radio Telephone for that one. While we're at it, maybe you can see if plugging in that microphone has affected the Tweety Bird or not. It's there. It sounds a little different than I remember it, but it's working.
Oh, good. But anyway, there was a station out there, and it might have been Paul. Go ahead.
Okay, I think that was 37 who is getting ready to check in, and then we also have an SWL check-in as well. So let's go over to you for one more transmission on Radio 2, and then we will pick up the couple of breaking stations. But, Jerry, thanks for bringing by the General Radio Telephone MC5, and you did a good job. I think last week, if that's the one you were on, we were having a little bit of issues with your audio into the radio, but it's sounding good now. Over.
That was the whole thing we were trying to fix, because I think you were saying the mic I had wired up for it was flat topping, so hopefully this one is not. And if it sounds good, I won't touch it, and I'll leave it alone. Anyway, thanks for checking it in, Dennis.
Absolutely. This is the don't touch it frequency, or who was it said if it's not broke, don't fix it. Sounding good on the old tube radio network. There were a couple of breaking stations. I heard you in there, Chris. Hang on one. Who was the other station? I think it was for an SWL check-in.
53 checking in there, Dennis.
All right, thanks for being patient there, Bob. I appreciate it. I wanted to make sure we got the radio check-ins before, sometimes they can be a little finicky. They want to check in when they want to check in. SWL 53, Mr. Belair, we've got you up on the big board, and thanks for tuning in the Gold Tube Radio Network.
Okay there, Dennis. I got a lot of patience there, Dennis. You have a good night.
All right, that's good. That'll make up for some of us that don't. Speaking of patient people, here's another one. SWL 37. Hello, Chris.
And hello again, Dennis. And Jerry, that MC5 sounded quite good right here, to be honest with you. I like the sound of it. Sounds real good. So don't change a word. Don't change nothing to it. Leave it as it is. Anyway, this is SWL 37, Chris. We are going to check in our General Radio Telephone, our Super MC11A. This is the 24-channel version of that one there for sure, and this is running the stock microphone. Over.
Now there is some audio. I think last week Jerry was running the stock microphone, but for some reason it wasn't doing too well on his MC5. But we are certainly not going to recommend that you change anything with your Super MC11A with the stock microphone, because it sounds as good, probably sounds better than any amplified microphone you could put on there. Give us another transmission. You are Radio 3.
Well, as you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just leave it broke the way it is. But yes, this is just the way it is. I'm not touching nothing to it. Just squeezing the trigger on the microphone.
So simple. All tube radio check-ins should be like that. If you're watching the video, there is a shot, a photo of what one might expect when they're sitting in front of the General Radio, Super MC11A from General Radio Telephone. Does your dial, that is interesting, I wonder if that's a special thing, does your channel dial show up with a green background?
It most definitely does.
All right, then we've got the right picture of the General Radio Telephone. Probably the same microphone that's in there, the rack handles making it look very utility, but sounding very good. Radio number 3, give us another transmission, and thanks for bringing it by on the Old Tube Radio Network.
You betcha, Dennis. Oh, and by the way, and the numbers and the line going up to the numbers is in black.
Yes, that's what we're seeing here. This one is actually tuned to channel 11, believe it or not. So good deal. Thanks for jumping back into the radio room on a, well, almost holiday evening here, with a lot of people out at Christmas parties and office parties and shopping and doing that kind of stuff. So we appreciate anybody that has the time to actually jump in and check in a radio tonight. Thanks.
You betcha, Dennis. I'm going to jump over here, see what else I can find here now.
All right, I'm going to try. I think we might have rewired the jingle singers, not only for the internet connection, but for the over-the-air connection as well. We will see what happens here on the Old Tube Radio Network.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you. Wherever you are, your favorite spot on the dial by far is known to you as
OTR. The Old Tube
now, it
Radio
looks like
Network.
they're still not coming through the
station
transmitter.
for you is
OTR.
Well, maybe that's a good thing.
Number 7. And 37.
All right, lots of 7s there. 7 and 37. Have a seat in the green room. Chris, we will be right to you. But first, let's take a listen to radio number 4 at 3 minutes after 9 o'clock here on the Pacific Coast for SWL7. Hello, Ed.
And good evening, Dennis, and all the SWLs out there. The Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB.
From Browning Laboratories, our first Browning of the evening, and a good one it is. The Mark III series SSB. So that's the big transmitter and the big receiver. We'll pop up a shot of that as you give us another transmission.
Yeah, that's definitely a large radio. That one, of course, the picture you're showing there is stacked on top of each other. This one is side by side, taking up about 31 inches of radio top space. Of course, the nice bright on-the-air light comes on when you key up, and there you go. Oh, this one also has the Golden Eagle D104.
Makes it even better. I'm not sure if stacking is the best way. Sometimes it may be the only way you can run them if you don't have the radio real estate that Ed was talking about, almost 3 feet of table, linear table space. And that's if you just have the 2 units. If you've got the amplifier, you might need a little bit more convection cooling. There are vents in the top, I believe, maybe in the top and bottom of both radios, so better to have some cooling running around. But you know, tubes are pretty forgiving. Tubes can run in hot situations. It's the other component parts like the capacitors and the transformers sometimes that need a little bit of airing out. I don't know how many, if any, transistors were in that, but it's always a good idea to get the proper airflow. Radio number 4, give us another transmission. It sounds good. I like the way you have that set.
Oh, thank you much. Yeah, we got this one kind of toned back a little bit. Otherwise, the modulation needle will literally slam against the side. I hear it sit there pinging the side, and don't really care for trying. I may bend the darn thing, and don't want to do that. Hey, Aiden, say hello.
Hello.
And that's my grandson, trying to get him into the radios also.
All right, he sounds good, and, you know, the radios are pretty neat. All these blinking lights and knobs, and they do can do some pretty amazing stuff. So I'm sure once he gets into it, he will be interested, and then then where will you be? Well, you've got plenty of radios to keep him busy, I'm sure. SWL7 on the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SS. Be back to you for a couple of pings, and then we'll head over to 37.
Thank you much. We'll go ahead and see if I can't get a couple of more in here in between running around with the grandkids.
All right, good deal. Nice to hear that there is a new generation that might be interested in radio. That thing that doesn't cost you. You don't get a bill. The nice thing is you don't get a bill at the end of the month after you made a transmission. There's no special tiered plan for your 11-meter radio. Just get on it when you want, and that's kind of fun. It's kind of old school. Speaking of old school, there's a seg for you. Hello, Chris.
And it's called PG&E, that extra bill each month. I don't know how many tubes you're running behind it. Anyway, Dennis, thank you, and good evening, Ned and son. But anyway, Dennis, I would like to check in my Courier Royale. This is 23 channel 2 where it glows in the dark, with all the knobs and the blinking lights and the hidden knobs, and we're running this here with the amplified D104 Lollipop.
And doing a good job. It is Radio 5. I've got a shot of the very colorful two-toned Courier here that I will pop up in a minute. Nice audio. There is 1, 2. Is there a third one? I'm trying to look at the picture myself. I guess there is. There are 2 pilot lights up on the top on either side of the channel selector. And it looks like there's another pilot light or a light that's over on the other side of the speaker. I wonder how many of those might be winking and blinking either on receive or transmit. Over.
Well, on receive, let me see. On receive, it's an orange one glowing. On transmit, it's a red one glowing with a little bit of a flitter to it. And also on the far right, it's a blinker. It's a red one that shows a modulation. It blinks quite bright red. And well, I'm not saying that it's dark, but it definitely works. They're all working like they're supposed to. Over.
Okay, they're working like they're supposed to. Or at least they're letting you know that the radio is working like it's supposed to. I think I see the MOD on the one that's above the switch by the speakers, so you can kind of keep an eye on if you're introducing audio into the radio, and you certainly are. The Courier Royale, that's what the radio that Chris is in front of, or his coiled cord is connected to. Some notes on that. They were typically, I think you would find them built with a Collins 6 kilohertz mechanical filter, which was a somewhat expensive device that especially was in Collins radios, but they secreted them in the Courier as well, which is a nice addition. Also 11 tubes in that radio, and if you go to oldtuberadio.com, you will find a service manual. So let's go back to Radio 5. Thanks, Chris, for bringing it by. There are a lot of fans. There are a lot of fans of that radio that like that Courier. The big Courier, probably the last tube radio that they made.
You know, there's a lot of vents on this thing, too. Sides, top, bottom. I ain't looking at the back, but I'm pretty sure there might be 1 or 2 in the back. I don't know. Can't see back there, but it definitely got a lot of vents in it.
Vents are a good thing. I think they call it convection cooling. No noisy fans. I think at 5 watts, typically you wouldn't need that. And when you want to get into the amplifiers, where you might need a little bit of help to exhaust the heat. But as long as you don't throw a towel over the top or stack too many radios, then you will be doing good. Give us another transmission, and thanks for bringing it by.
You betcha, Dennis, and I'll be back with another.
You say you were not sure. Over KB6GFD?
45.
No, probably because I don't know. I think I have a breaker, KB6GFD. Was there a breaking station?
Yeah, 45.
All right, you caught me with my earphones half on here. Those watching the video can see I was over on the other radio. But they heard you, and now I hear you. Hello, Paul. Over.
Yeah, you were having a little problem there. Sounds good now. Oh, it actually sounds louder. Maybe it's my end. I don't know. That little switch on the Falcon was a spot switch.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I didn't think of that. A spot switch, and for those who might not know, a spot switch is necessary when you have a separate transmitter and receiver, either as two units or in a transceiver where you have a dial for receive and a dial for transmit, and that allows you to take your transmitter frequency or your transmitter channel and align your receiver so that you are listening to the channel on which you are transmitting, therefore kind of spotting your radio in. All right, thanks, Paul, for that information.
Okay, well, let's get on with this big old yellow and polished aluminum Robin. This is the T240D.
The Robin T240D. Whenever I see a picture on a Facebook picture of somebody's Radio Shack that has vintage radios in it, the chances of seeing a Robin, either the 123, the 123B, or the 240D, is usually very good. And it's easy, especially on the 240D, because the radio stands out with the great yellow coloring. So I will give us a shot of the yellow bird, and we will go back to you for transmission. It's sounding good.
Yeah, yellow bird. Yeah, I got a lot of different names for the thing. That's one of the common ones, I guess. Everything is made by Panasonic in Japan. It's one of the later Robins, and it's a hybrid. It's got the readout on the channel selector and everything on the thing. Other than that, it's very similar to the old tuber, the 123B, I believe it is. I got that. I'm going to try to check it in tonight too, if it'll let me. But that's a really pretty radio. It's one of the prettiest ones they had out there. It's got all kinds of lights. It's got a blue light, transmitter right now, modulation lights, flashing back on, and a meter, super nice meter on the thing. Just a quality radio. Most of the radios over there in Japan were quality radios on the thing. Made by companies here, of course. They were doing it back then, Dennis. Anyway, back to you.
Yeah, the 40-channel radios from 1976, 77, 78, I think most of them, not all of them, but most of them were based on the Panasonic chassis out of Japan. And so you will see maybe the 5 or 6 radios that actually had 40 channels. If you look inside, they're all going to look fairly similar, although the exterior facade and the way the knobs were arranged will be a little bit different. But they all sound great. They all have great sounding audio. They may be plate modulated. I know the 23 channels were, so this is just an updated version of that. But you can't go wrong. If you're looking for a tube radio for your collection, any of the 40 channel radios that are out there where the tubes are basically this style. And as you can hear from Paul's, radio number 6, they do quite well. Robin T240D, we'll go back to you for another transmission, and that is a radio that will brighten up anybody's room.
Okay, well, it has a range expander on the thing, and I'm trying to get them to work together. My Turner Expander 500, which I've only got one of those mics that are working. They're really a neat old mic. Well sought after, the Turner 500s, expanders. They got a tone control, volume control, and you can check your battery by pushing the button on the front of the thing. It runs on a 9-volt battery inside the thing. Okay, well, that's about the size of everything I got going here, Dennis. And go back to you.
All right, as they say, back to me in the studio. So thank you. Thank you, Paul, for that. I want to do a couple of things because we haven't looked at the big board in a while, and the first thing to do is check in Mr. Cobra. Hello, Mike. Mike SWL13 is out there waving a hand, and so if I remember to, there we go, remember to check in, I will get you checked in properly. Over on the video side, I want to say hello to Rich, who asks the question, are the SWLs required to have tube sets? And that is a great question, and I'm glad you asked that, Rich, because I don't stress often enough. That is one of the reasons that we started the SWLs for people who don't have tube radios or like to listen in, or maybe this is the first time they heard a tube radio. So we'd like to acknowledge at the beginning that there are people out there listening, so our radio operators, as they're checking in, know that not only are they testing out their radios, but they're also putting on a little performance, if you will, for the shortwave listeners who are enjoying the tube radio. So, in fact, it is not a requirement to have a tube radio to check in this net at all. So, and solid-state radios are certainly allowed for SWL. So the SWLs you hear, I'm going to say most of them are on solid-state radios, and a lot of them, or maybe some of them, are testing their tube radios that they're going to check in later. And not all tube radio operators who check in are SWLs, and it is not required to be an SWL to check in a radio. We always say if you find something, if you've been listening in forever and you find a tube radio and you've never checked in at any point, always break in to bring it by. That's why we are here, basically, to get the radios on the air and to talk with you about it. And we have a lot of knowledgeable people out there who can tell you, turn this knob, put this microphone on it, don't do this, or do this, and that'll help things out. Rich, thanks for the question. And out in Nashville, Tennessee, EDA 396, waving a hand. Good to have you back listening in. And, of course, the mighty KUH, who has been on vacation, but he is back listening. KC9KUH, thank you there as well. All right, with all of that out of the way, let me say that this is the Old Tube Radio Network, and we were listening for Radio 7.
And number 7.
All right, and we have 2, so we'll make, in order of appearance, radio number 8 will be Chris, so have some more lemonade and cookies or whatever. I don't know what they're serving in the green room tonight. Just kind of push the jingle singers out of the way and tell them that you're going to be radio number 8. Radio number 7 online with us now. Let me get back over to my other screen, and we will be talking with Mr. Ed and find out what he's got. Hello, Ed.
Man, I guess he is definitely doing his thing. Well, we may be Frankensteining or at least crackling and stuff. It's the Robin T123 no B with the winking and blinking eye, telling me that there was some other stuff going on there besides my audio.
All right, yeah, I do believe it is trying to do the Frankenstein thing, which is okay, because that's sort of a tube radio anomaly. That is something that you won't hear on those solid state radios. And just confirming, this is the 123 with the magic eye.
Wow. Yeah, let me see. Maybe that'll man, it's really going for it. Yes, this is the one with the magic eye. Letting me know that, wow, there's definitely something. Man, I think that's the worst it's ever done. Okay, I definitely got some crackling going on.
Yeah, what I'm hearing on that key-up is a little crackling, so that's probably what's futzing with the magic eye tube. There's a picture, oldtuberadio.net, and if you're watching the YouTube video, if you look at the little pointer there, that is the magic eye tube. You're actually looking into the side of the tube behind the front panel there, and then those two lights come together as the radio approaches 100% modulation. The cool thing is, when Ed isn't talking, he's seeing those two illuminations move, and that's exactly what we're hearing as we hear a little bit of crackling and crunching. So I'm not sure what's causing that. But back to you.
Wow, yeah, it's doing its thing. Yeah, sometimes it does it, and sometimes it doesn't. I still have not narrowed down what the heck causes that. But yeah, we'll go ahead and let this one go and get another radio on here for you.
All right, well, usually one transmission is enough to get it on the board to get checked in. I'm noticing more crackling. The Frankenstein thing is kind of cool. It adds a little effect. The crackling, I'm not sure about that. That may be something you want to check in a little bit. But the audio is still nice and loud. It's not affecting the audio in any way at all. It's just adding a little bit of stuff like crackling to it. That radio can run 12-volt DC if you have the right cable. And I think we've had a couple of mobile radio check-ins on styles of radios like that. More information if you've got Sam's PhotoFax CB35, page 95, 11 tubes, a couple of transistors in there for good measure, the Robin T123. Thank you, Mr. Ed, for bringing that by. Now, Chris is hopefully stepping up to the microphone, the big red carpet, and we've got you for radio number 8, over.
Oh, okay. Anyway, Dennis, this is Chris here, SWL37. I was going to say something. I forgot what it was now. You're something about turn the radios on? Yeah, remember that song, Turn Your Radio On? Yeah, anyway, we just listen to everybody talk. But anyway, this was my radio that I just turned on a little while ago. This is my G PowerMate, Gem Marine Products, 23-channel tuber that glows in the dark. This is the one with a pretty blue chassis, and we're running this here with the amplified D104 Lollipop over.
Very good audio, as should be expected, I should say, from those style of radios, the Gem Marine G PowerMate. Let me get a shot. I don't have it processed. Believe it or not, SWL44 sent me a really great picture, and it may be that one. I don't know, because you know where you got that one from. That shows a little more elevated view, and you get a little bit more of the blue cabinet. And not the blue surround, but it's a pretty shot anyway. So let's go back to you for transmission.
Well, honestly, I don't know if we only took 1 or 2 pictures. I really couldn't tell you that day.
Well, this is something he just did, but I don't have it in the right format to get it through on the big board here. So we will go with this one that we're showing, which I think is the shot of actually your radio.
Yeah, with the microphone sitting on it.
We just barely see the base of the D104.
That's right. That is mine. That is actually my radio. That's a picture of my radio. That was taken of my radio. That was taken here in my living in my house. Yep, that's right.
All right, and that is the microphone you're using, or are you using something different now?
Oh no. This is the microphone I'm using.
All right, Gem Marine Products G PowerMate. I believe this is one of the Panasonic chassis as well, but the 23, we were talking earlier on the Robin T240D, which was a Panasonic chassis. This is the 23-channel Panasonic chassis that there were some others made. This also shares, I think, the insides with the Robin T123B and some others. But as you hear, great audio. It also could be plate modulated. I can't remember. I think it is, but that could be one reason why it sounds so great. The other reason is it's got a great operator. You are radio number 8, Chris. Give us another transmission, and thanks for bringing by another nice radio.
Okay, Des. Well, I'm going to try to get at least one more in here, but I got to let it warm up. So I'll try to get back here in just a bit.
All right, there's plenty of time. We've got another 40 minutes or so of the old Tube Radio Network here. And so plenty of time to get radios checked in, to ask questions. A suggestion, if you're listening, Ed, a suggestion from our Utah consortium on a little technical advice. He says maybe raise your radio up about 4 inches from the table and drop it, and if that doesn't work, add another 2 inch to each drop until the crackling will stop. I think at some point the crackling will stop as you are putting together a kit radio that is not a Heath kit, or probably shouldn't be. The Old Tube Radio Network, Real Radio's Glowing in the Dark. We're looking for Radio 9. This is the Saturday night place that has been going on for over 30 years at 27085 here in the Central Valley of California. Channel 11, thanks to our tube radio operators and shortwave listeners who keep us on the air with their comments, questions, and radios. And of course, our station's also listening across the globe at oldtuberadio.net, and now watching as well on YouTube, Google. The Old Tube Radio Network, listening.
25.
And 25, venturing back out into the Radio Shack. Tell us, what brings you out into the Radio Shack once again?
Well, actually, I had a question for Chris. I don't know if he's busy switching radios and coaxes, but I remember him years ago checking in on the garbage can special, and I haven't heard that for a while. But anyway, it was just a question for Chris. Over.
Oh, I haven't had that quite sometimes, but Jerry, I remember that
That was the ICO Sentinel Pro, the trash can special.
Oh, I remember that, but I tell you, whatever happened to that radio, Chris?
I got rid of it years ago. I was wanting something, and, the guy had the radio and I wanted, and blah, 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 so on and so on. And anyway, I did a swap-a-brew. I wish I still had it back now, but anyway, hey, I got other ones, but it was a good one. And like I said, that was the trash can special, which was found in the trash can with the microphone, number 2, whatever it was. You know which one it is? I can't think of the name of the microphone now. But it had a low power mic on it and the whole works. And that was a good radio for a number of years.
Oh, yeah. Well, stories. You always associate stories like Paul up there in the hills got a no-name radio, and you had the trash can special. Anyway, not to get away from the net. Dennis, if you're still awake and not being distracted by the jingle singers, I'd like to check in Browning, over.
We can do that. The Radio 9 spot is ready for your radio transmission and check-ins. And you know what? I'm giving the jingle singers, who are here, by the way, the evening off. That's why it's so crowded over in the green room for those checking in, because the jingle singers are out there eating all the goodies. There is some anomaly that's only allowing them to be heard on the internet stream and not through the transmitter. So without having Bozo Control run some cables and things, I think that I'll just go ahead and give them a little extra time until we figure out our issue here, which is okay. I think the jingle singers have been with us for many, many years, so if they're taking a little hiatus, that should be okay. What we don't want is the tube radios to go on hiatus, and thanks to your check-in here, they will not do that. So over to you. Tell us about the radio on which you are talking. Over.
Let me give vacation with pay.
Dennis, there's another station underneath you. Go ahead.
Yeah, someone was making a comment they should have a vacation with pay. I think we all need that. Over.
Vacation with the jingle people. No, the jingle singers can never go on vacation. Anyway, 25 checking in on a Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB 2-piece radio with the non-powered original Browning mic. I'm not even sure who made this thing. With the bass, a bass on the mic, and I tell you what, you pick up the mic and sometimes the bass falls off, and hopefully I've never broken mine, but I've heard people breaking theirs. But anyway, the red on the air light is on, and the meters are bouncing all over the place, and it appears that it's transmitting. So anyway, Dennis, thanks for the opportunity to check it in. Back to you.
It is transmitting quite well. That radio never skips a beat. Been going quite nicely, and for those of you who go way back on the Ultra Radio Network, maybe I want to say it's 20 years. Has it been 20 years since we might have done a show out there? A couple of times we were at the big ranch out there and snuck into the radio room, Bozo Control, myself, and some others, and we actually used, I think it was that radio, to run the net, and very, very, very fine and fun items. I think that was one of the first times that I had actually done the entire net on a Browning Golden Eagle Mark III. Kevin had the S9 23 S9, but never got a chance to do a Mark III until then. So good memories on that. It sounds great. You've got everything tweaked, tuned the way it should be for an interesting Radio 9. Over.
Interesting. I love how you say interesting Radio night. But anyway, thanks. Hopefully it sounds okay. And by golly, I'm just tickled to death that the MC5 sounded good, and it's been a challenge to get that back on the air for a couple of years. But thanks to Paul for his motivation. I'll put it that way. He motivated me to get that thing back on the air, and I'm glad I'm glad it's working. Working, as my ex-German boss would say. Anyway, I don't want to tie up the airwaves here, and thanks for checking in, and great job, Dennis. And you guys, love to hear you guys on Wednesday nights. Back to you, Dennis.
37.
All right, 37, we've got you. It's working quite well, I might add. The Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB also has AM, of course. Those hitting the market in 1972, and a good 3 to 4 year run, and the only thing that changed was there was 40 channels, and Browning had to figure out what to do, and that was the Mark IV edition. So if you had a little over $700, you might go home with one of those back in the early 70s. I think if you have a little over $700 now, you might go home with one of them today off of eBay. And just a note, you mentioned the sound and from the General Radio Telephone MC5. We do archive the show here, archive the net, and so if anybody wants to hear how their radio sounded, you can go over to oldtuberadio.net. At the top of the page there is an archive button. If you click on that archive button, it will drop down and load all the little 3-inch reel-to-reel tapes that we record every week and stuff them into the OTR magnetophone. And then all you have to do is figure out whether it's an SWL check-in you're looking for, a tube radio check-in, and the date, and load it into your Universal Media Net web player, and you are good to go. Thank you, Jerry. Also, waving a hand from Northeast Georgia at oldtuberadio.net, Butterbean is with us, as he often does, jumping in and listening into all the good radios. And my guess is he probably has a pretty decent radio room himself. I'm hoping that sometime, we will have some skip conditions to check in some of our great stations that listen in from afar. Radio number 10 is up next, and that would be Mr. Chris Hello 37.
Hello, Dennis. Well, let's start off with this here big radio here. It's got a big name on it. The Helicrafters. Citizen little phone by Helicrafters model CD3A. What has it got? 8 channels in it. We are on channel E, which is channel 11. And we are running this here also with the original handheld carbon microphone. Over.
It has that old tube radio sound from a carbon microphone, not doing too bad. A carbon microphone element is very similar. Those who are old enough to remember the dial phones, the early dial phones, when you picked up the handset, it was very heavy. Well, that was the carbon elements probably in the microphone. Well, obviously in the microphone, and maybe some type of element device in your headset as well. This is what the Helicrafters is using. So with that said, of course, you do know that you have to be very close to that carbon element to do some modulation.
Boy, do I ever know that. You definitely let me know when I'm far away.
Well, let's see, you're far away, at least 3 or 4 miles, but through the miracle of radio, you're right here.
Absolutely. But anyway, no, this is my Citizen's little phone, and it seems to be working. I'm always surprised how 7-tubes can do so much.
Yeah, that's right. It is a 7-tube radio. There's a schematic at oldtuberadio.com, and I'm seeing that radio would also run 12 volts. I don't see a 6-volt designation. It came out in 63. It seemed like all the 6-volt radios were 62 and before, but you could run that mobile. And if you take a look at a lot of the Helicrafters ads, if you can find them for the little phone series, they touted that you could run them in your taxi cab and businesses and things like that. And the one we're showing actually has the mobile bracket, so, and the little mobile bracket hanger. So Helicrafters knew that in theory, when the Class D service was created, that's sort of what it was going to be. It was going to be based to mobile communications. It wasn't going to be hobby-type communications between stations. What did the FCC? Between stations of different licenses. It was supposed to be stations of the same license where you were using base to Unit 1 or base to Unit 2. But sometimes things got a little bit out of hand, and here we are today. Give us another transmission. Thanks for bringing it by, the Helicrafters little phone CB3A.
Okay, Dennis. Well, at least I got this one in. So I think that's going to do it for me tonight, but as always, next weekend. All right, Dennis, I'm going to be out of here and listening to the rest of the net on the other one, so you have a good evening. Jerry, I still like that MC5. Sounds good. And that radio we just done was quite well, too.
Yeah, all the radios tonight. All our radios usually come in well, and even if they don't, we we try and make them come in as best as best they can. So all of a sudden I have more. Why do I have more audio than I need? I don't know, but I have to check the controls here. It doesn't matter how my radio sounds, I guess. We'll be looking for Radio 11 on the old Tube Radio Network.
Number 7.
Hey, Chris, thank you. You bet, Jay.
All right, we're playing the big game here at 9:36. We've got 7 on 11. Hello, Mr. Ed.
And hello, this time bringing by the E.F. Johnson Messenger 223.
For those fans of the E.F. Johnson Company, who not only makes CB radios, I'm going to say that probably wasn't a big part of what they did. Business band radios, of course, and before that, amateur radios, but 1969, 1970, 1971, this was the big-time radio from E.F. Johnson, a very big seller, and also they farmed out, I think, the chassis to Sears Radio as well. Let's listen to Radio 11. Back to you.
Oh, okay. Oh, and this one has a Silver Eagle D104 attached. The original microphone I did not get with the radio, unfortunately. Would like to have one of those Johnsons, but what the heck. This one seems to do the job.
Doing the job quite well on the old Tube Radio Network. I'll pop up a quick shot of the E.F. Johnson radio, and we'll see that the microphone's plugged in, but we won't show the microphone with it. Great radio, a great layout on this. If you want a basic 23-channel radio, here you go, with a big S meter, nice front fire speaker, and from E.F. Johnson, you cannot go wrong. Like I mentioned before, these were manufactured from 1969 to 1972 with a base price of around $200 or a little bit more if you got the supplied microphone. Back to you for transmission.
Okie dokie. There we go. I think with that, I'll have to back on out of here for a little bit and let the kid beat the heck out of me for a while.
All right. Well, I think you've put on a good demonstration not only for our SWLs across the Universal Media Netweb and at Channel 11, but for the yet-to-be, the soon-to-be radio operator who is boy, if you want to be in a great spot for radios, that's over there where Mr. Ed is. He's got some classic radios. He's got amateur radio, so he's got everything going and a good place to learn about RF. Thank you, Mr. Ed, for your check-ins. The old Tube Radio Network, real radios going in the dark. We'll be listening for radio number 12.
45.
And hello, Paul. I hope you're still hearing me, because I'm still hearing you. Over. Okay, well, the first transmission had good audio. The second transmission, the one that you just unkeyed from, the audio was quite low, so keep an eye out on the wiggle meters, and I believe you said you're on a Robin, so let's see what we can do. Over.
We can correct the problem, I think. I think I corrected it right then, didn't I?
Absolutely, but loud and clear. Over.
Right. I got that little Ranger spatter on the thing. Quality little radio. This is an old tuber. It'll probably be running long before. That other one will give up long before this one does. The solid state one. but we'll see. Anyway, this thing's got quite a write-up on the front of the thing. You can go ahead and read off that if you want to. He did a nice job of writing up this very same exact radio as the other one, except this solid is tube. The other one is purebred type radio. So, I'll back to you.
All right, what is the model number on this Robin? Over.
T-123B.
All right, the T-123B, or as we often say here, the T-123 Bravo. For those who've been listening, watching the net for a while, we know we had the 240D. That was the big yellow radio, and here is the radio that came out prior to that, from 1972 to 1976, when they switched over to 40 channels. And this is the big green machine with the green colored inserts on the dial and the green stripe across it. And Paul is right. Some great audio as well. I believe this is also the what am I saying? The import Japanese chassis that a couple other radios shared. And doing it all with 11 tubes also goes base or mobile with a 12-volt DC cord. 2 transistors thrown in there, maybe just checking out the waters in early 70s, see if those transistors worked. But you still had 11 tubes. If you go to oldtuberadio.com, you will find that there is an operator's manual and also a schematic if you're interested in more. But the thing you really need to know is how well they sound, and Paul will demonstrate that.
Yeah, this radio is one of the most popular Robins I think they ever made on the thing. I wonder how many were actually manufactured. I don't know, but I bet there was a bunch of them. Anyway, I'm running a D104 M6B microphone on the thing. Of course, I don't have the stock mic for it, never did have it. But it does everything. It's probably next to the last radio. I think it's 1972 to 1976 they manufactured these. And as you know, you can tell more about it than I can. But after that, that was about the beginning of the end of the good old tubers. Anyway, back to you, Dennis.
Yeah, there were a few 40 channels, but this had a good 4-year run right in the middle, 72, 76, right at the beginning and into the middle of the, we'll call it the CB craze. I don't think I like that term that much, but let's say when 11 meters was becoming quite popular, and when there were maybe 600,000 or 700,000 radio amateurs, there were 2, 3, and 4 million operators on Class D 11 meters. And this is one of the radios that sparked the craze. And then, of course, 1976, because there were so many people on the air, and because so many people were already using the channels, the FCC channelized the channels 24 through 40, and that pretty much killed the sales of 23-channel radios, but did wonders for 40-channel radio sales, and like Paul said, didn't do much for tubes as solid state was coming in. So good deal. Thanks for radio number 12, Paul, as always, sounding good on the Robin.
Comment.
And a comment, go ahead, over.
Yeah, Paul, I tell you what, that's got some crisp, really crisp audio, and go ahead and take another transmission, but I just want to throw that in there.
Does it sound as good as that radio of yours, that General 5?
I don't know what it sounded like.
I do.
They all sound good, but Paul is right. It's hard to make a Robin sound bad.
Anyway, Paul, the radio sounded great, man.
Thanks, Jerry. It's a good night. You know, back in those days when these old radios were going strong and all that, it was a pretty exciting time back then. I sure like it back then better than I do now. I don't know about you, but it was a lot of fun back then. Still fun now, but there's nothing like it was back then. Dennis can verify that.
Oh, absolutely, and it's a challenge to keep these old tubers alive and well and still on the air, as you know. Anyway, back to net control.
Yeah, I'll say for sure, back then it was pretty much guaranteed that if you sat down on any evening in front of the radio, you were guaranteed to, 1, hear conversations on many, many channels, and 2, to be able to get into a conversation. Now, the way things are these days, you turn on the radio, and if there's no skip, sometimes you might not be hearing anything for a long, long time. And, of course, we fixed that issue on Saturday nights from 8 to 10 o'clock when our tube radio operators take time out of their evenings to jump into the radio room and share their radios with us. We've got 12 so far. We are looking for radio 13.
25.
And we may have found our lucky 13th radio. Hello, Jerry.
Yeah, I'm going to follow Chris's way there. I'll check in on the Holocrafters, CB3A, little phone with a meter in the front, on a non-powered D104, which I really thought seriously about switching over to the MC5. But anyway, we fixed that. But anyway, the Holocrafters CB3A little phone.
You know, I forgot. It's been a long time since you've checked that radio, and I forgot you had a Hallicrafters, and I didn't remember which one it is, but now I know. And that has really nice audio, nice and clear. It is not the carbon microphone. That is a good combination right there. And you said it's not an amplified microphone, but that cartridge, whatever you've got, has some really nice, clear audio. Over.
Yeah, Dennis, it's just the old chicken, whatever they used to call it. But it's lollipop, non-powered D104, and but it does have. I guess it came two ways. It had the S meter on the front or not, but this one does. It also has an interesting bank on the side. I think somebody added it on. This radio has an incredible receive. So there's a bank of tubes. One of these days I'll have to take a picture of it and send it to you. But anyway, there was an add-on. Obviously somebody knew what they were doing. So as long as this thing's working and getting it checked in on OTR, that's all I care about.
And we care about that too, because that's how we go along here, getting those radio check-ins. And you mentioned something that I forgot to talk about before here at 9:47, Radio 13, the Hallicrafters CB3A. As we take a look, if you're up at old2radio.net or on the YouTube video, there is, between the channel selector, two rectangular slots on their picture. One of them is blank or dark, and the other one actually has an S meter. And what Jerry is referring to, Scooter wants to come up. Hang on. We got to get Scooter the Radio Cat up here without injury to either me or our feline friend. I think we're doing good. All right, Scooter. I think we're still in the air. Didn't step on the keyboard. And there was an option, or two options, to fill in those blanks on the front panel. One being the S meter, which is what we're seeing, what we're showing, and then the other one was a receive. I'm going to say it's a receive VFO, so it would be a little dial or a little wheel that would plug in there or fit in there and then plug into the radio somewhere. And those were options that you could add to that radio. So you're saying you actually have one or two of those, over?
Yeah, Dennis, I actually have both. I have the VFO on the left-hand side, and I actually have the S meter, which is bouncing up and down. It's good to see it working after all these years. So yes, I have both the VFO receive and the S meter, over.
All right, a fully loaded radio. I think the radio by itself is about $160, and the options were another $20 probably for each one. It's the way you bought a car back then, right? Because in 1963, you could buy a car without a radio, without a heater. Well, I don't know. You could probably still buy one without a heater. Of course, air conditioning and white wall tires, and there were all these options that are sort of standard today, and that was sort of the radio version of that, a way to keep the price down. But later, when you got that extra $20 or something added in, it wasn't hard to do. They created the radio to have it there, and there was a little plug inside that was dangling, and when you bought the item, you'd pull off the top, take out that panel, and wire it in, and away you go. So you have the full Monty Hallicrafters, over.
Not us, but I have the full Monty of the Hallicrafters anyway. Thanks for checking it in, Dennis. Thank you.
All right, and thanks for bringing it by here on the Old Tube Radio Network, Radio 13, the Hallicrafters CB3A. We've got about 10 minutes left for your radio check-ins. Scooter, hi, Scooter's joined us up here on the radio table. She knows where the warmest room of the house is. Looking for Radio 14.
Number 7. 14.
Well, let's see. We've got number 7, who is going to fill in our 14th spot. And who was the others, or check-in?
37.
And 37, okay. I thought you were out of radios. But, well, hang on, Chris, because you will be lucky number 15. In the meantime, let me grab, what list am I supposed to be looking at here? This one. So 7 times 2 is 14. Hello, Ed.
And hello to all the SWLs. This time, the Tram. TR27 Echo with the Electro-Voice 638 microphone. Nice chunk of metal.
Yeah, both ways around, not only from the radio itself, we'll show a picture of the Tram here, but also the microphonium, which he refers to, a classic metal mic that you might see in front of a Collins radio, or maybe even in front of a PA system back in the 60s. Let me pull up the 27E and might even see if I can get the microphone as well. But first, let's deal with the radio. Back to you.
There you go, and I see on the oldtuberadio.net that you put up the very radio on which I am speaking. Nice 5x7 speaker, and the, of course, huge meter there that's 3 inches tall and 3.5 inches wide. So nothing about this radio is small.
And no, which means it might be fun to work on as well when you pop the top and can see all the parts and reach everything. I believe this is another radio from 1962 or 63, the TR27 series. This is the E model. I don't think they went up. I know they went up lower, but I don't think they went any higher than that. So that could be their top-of-the-line model. And I think you said, if I got the number right, you have the EV, the Electro-Voice model 638 microphonium.
That is correct. The 638 with the bifurcated head. Strange-looking little microphone, but hey, they seem to work fairly well. I know I tried 5 or 6 different mics on this radio, and this one by far was the best.
It definitely sounds good. It has a nice tone quality. It bespeaks of old tube radio for sure. I'm going to see if I can do on the fly here. Sometimes I mess up, but I'm going to see if I can hot swap over to... No, it says I can't do that. All right. Well, we'll give it a shot anyway. I wanted to hot swap over to that microphone which you're using, but I might not be able to do it. In the meantime, give us another transmission.
Oh, there we go. Yep. Really kind of a simple radio, but of course you have the variable receive on there. So you do have your little spot switch. That's the little red spot right underneath the S meter. There is a little toggle switch in the middle of the radio, which is not really supposed to be there, put there by somebody else. And yes, there is the head of the microphone, which is a desk mic, which I'm speaking on.
All right. It's a very large picture, so if you're watching YouTube video, it almost looks like an alien from outer space has popped up on your screen, but that is the chrome bar across the top, the elements in the top there, very, very classic looking. I think that it was probably designed by, who was the guy that did all the Chrysler cars with the fins? Raymond Loewy. It might have had something to do with that, and that is what's helping produce the audio on radio number 14, the Tram TR27E. It is sounding good. Thanks for bringing it by. Give us another transmission, and then we'll head over to Chris.
Oh, thank you very much. And this is definitely my last old tube radio for the night, so I'll kick back and take a listen to the last of the show.
All right, perfect timing as we are winding down here. Plenty of time for everyone to get checked in that would like to be checked in, and as many radios as possible. Thank you, Ed, and hello, 37 with Radio 15.
Well, when Jerry came in with one more, I had to at least try to get my last one, and it made me thinking, hell, this is the last part of the year just about, so I had to at least, made me think, I got to get the last one in. But, Jerry, I don't know if you got one like this in here. I know of only one other person who's got one like this, and that's Dr. Phil, Grandpa out there. But anyway, this is my Chris 23 Plus, 23 channel transceiver. We are running this here with the original handheld stock microphone. Over.
Gotta love original tube radio with handheld stock audio. We've been getting a lot of that tonight, and there is definitely nothing wrong with that. There's the radio up on YouTube. Let's see. This has a blue Not quite like the Gem Marine products, but it's got a tiny little channel selector. Can you tell what channel you're on in there?
Let me get my glasses on here. I see 2 lines. Is that parking spot or what? Oh, it's 11.
All right, that's good, because if it was anything else, I probably wouldn't hear you. The Chris, K-R-I-S, C-H-R-I-S is at the microphone, but Chris is the radio. That's their 23 plus. This could also be one. Let me see if I got info on that. This could also be one of the import chassis, similar to the Robin. It's showing that it's AM and plate modulated. I don't see that it's. Yes, it's imported from Japan. So I think this is one of those. It's the 11 tubes. And there is an operator manual as well at oldtuberadio.com. But we've got a perfectly capable operator right here. Give us another transmission.
Yes, and I still work once in a while when I key the microphone down. And, of course, cook dinner, wash dishes, right? Anyway, yes, it's working. This is mine, though. It's definitely working. But like I said, there's only one other one here in town that I know of, and Phil has got that one.
Okay, great.
What was that, Jerry?
I said it's all it is, man. It's blowing smoke.
Okay.
This is the blowing smoke frequency, but it's the good kind of smoke. Because sometimes your radio can blow smoke, and it wouldn't be a good thing. Having a lot of good things tonight. 15 radios, the Chris 23 Plus sounding good. Give us another transmission. And it'll be time to be counting and amounting here pretty soon. A couple of minutes left, so if you're thinking about warming something up, there is still time. Sounding good, Chris.
Well, now this one is my last one. When I said it was the last one a while ago, it didn't mean the last one I was going to check in. It didn't mean it was the last one. But this one is the last one that I can check in. So, anyway, I've shot all of my 5, and, if I had 5 more, I'd probably try to do those too. But I've only got 5, so, 5's alive.
All right, and 5 is good. Even 1 is good. Just a note that you don't have to have 5 radios like one of our SWLs was asking before. You don't even have to have an SWL number or have checked in on the net before. If you hear us on the air and you have unboxed, Grandpa's radio, or your uncle's radio or whatever that was been sitting up in the garage and it looks like it's going to light up and fire up on the antenna, key it down and we'll tell you about it. if it works, before you let the smoke out or it blows smoke the wrong way. Also, SWL 44 out in the very cold Utah evening with the K9s and listening to your great radios on the Bluetooth headset over at old@tuberadio.net. Anyway, let me stop talking, doing some counting and amounting, and maybe looking for Radio 16.
And Ray up there in good old Wyoming. Utah, Wyoming. Close to it, but not close enough. But anyway, good evening, Ray. Have a good one. Hope it's not too cold.
25.
Hello, 25 over.
Okay, well, I'm not sure what's going on with the protocol is there, but is it my turn to turn in to check on the radio?
I think that would be a good thing, since indeed we are still officially here on the old Tube Radio Network. Over.
Oh, very good. Well, real quickly, check it. I'll tell you what, I've had more fun and laughed so hard just listening to Chris about the transmit Fresno. I remember him checking that in many years ago, and Paul up there in the hill and everybody else. But anyway, just real quick, if they check in this sonar, FS 3023, on the stock big old handheld stock microphone, and boy, it looks like it's working. But anyway, FS sonar, FS 3023. Back to you, Dennis.
And you can always expect great audio when you are in front of any one of the sonars. This is the FS 3023. If I was a true sonar aficionado, I could probably tell you the difference between the 23 and the 3023 and little nuances and things that they did. Let me pull up a shot for those that may not be familiar with the sonar radios. And I think we would be remiss when we're talking about sonar if we don't mention our good friend, Mr. Everett, Mr. Speedball SWL number 8, who I believe had a very, very nice collection of sonar. Well, he had a great collection of just about everything, but I remember his sonar radios checking in. I think he could alone with his collection put the sonars as the most heard radio. Back to you.
Yeah, you know, that's kind of a sad thing because that collection went elsewhere. I don't know. I have no idea where that went. I did not get a radio. I'll put it that way. But I did collect some sonars. And I have, I think I have a gauge. Boy, a lot of them I haven't had the time to warm up and check in H and E, I think. But anyway, Dennis, it doesn't matter. One way or another, we'll keep this old net rocking and rolling, and thanks to you for doing what you do. Back to you.
Yeah, thanks to our tube radio operators and SWLs that keep things, and Breaker acknowledged, to keep things going here on a Saturday night, the Old Tube Radio Network. Everett was lucky enough to also get, what do they call it, new NIB, new in-box sonars. Of course, this was 25 years ago. With the Model E, these were never before keyed down. So in 1990, 1988, this was a big find to have those at that time 20-year-old radios on the box, and their first transmissions on the Old Tube Radio Network. Let's see, the 10 o'clock hour, but I do hear some breaking stations, so we'll go a little bit overtime here because we do want to check in as many radios as possible, and I hope I can hear you through the transmission. Harvey, hello, SWL 20, over. I can hear you. I can't put the headphones on, a little operation on my ear, so I have to be careful on how I wear the headphones tonight. So give it a shot, and we'll do our best, over.
Okay, I put the range boost on. Is that better?
Yeah, I think that's going to help us out all the way around, especially for the SWLs also listening in, that will be able to hear a little bit better the radio on which you are talking, over.
Okay, from around 1962, this is the Gonset G11. I have another one that's DC. This one is AC. Just acquired it. The only tune-up has been to the tune and load inside the radio. That's it. No tube check, nothing else. So, got the stock waffle Gonset mic, and it seems to be working.
Yeah, it's working great. Boy, I'm glad we got a Gonset. I have a couple of Gonsets here. They're the G76s that I got at the TRW swap meet 30 years ago. Gonset Communications, a really good history on this company with Faust Gonset that we've gone through before, who is a ham radio operator and really made some great, innovative ham radio. Look, I want to say lower-priced ham radio gear that would connect to your auto radio and tune in 10 meters. He made the 6-meter and 2-meter, 10-meter communicators, and then, lucky for us, the Gonset company, a division of the Young Spring and Wire Company down in Southern California, got into the Class D service, and here is the very first radio that they produced back in 1959, 1958, and Harvey is bringing it to us. It's the Gonset G11. Give us a transmission.
Question?
Go ahead, question.
Does that Gonset have the Magic Eye or just the regular pilot lamp?
Magic Eye, of course.
Both points. Okay, back to you.
Okay. This one, the little eyelid cover is broken off, unfortunately. But everything else is fine. Original paint job. This one also has what appears to be an original FCC tag on it, saying that the license for this station expires 2/2 of 67. And I can't remember how long the licenses were, but I think they were 5 years back then or something, I don't know. But this one is from a company in San Francisco. It's got the location tag, FCC location tag, from the California Association of Life Underwriters. I assume an insurance type company. 41 Sutter Street, San Francisco. I looked up 41 Sutter Street, the restaurant. But anyway, got that original tag on it there. And the original call letters are on the tag and the radio. So I'm calling this my finger-licking good radio, or my Kentucky Fried Chicken radio, because the call letters are KFC 0145.
All right, I'm gonna put that down in my description here. KFC 0145. I think I got that right. Correct me if it's wrong. And some of those were regional. If you look up, can find some other KFCs. They may have come from a certain set of states. Sometimes the FCC did that with the way they issued those out. They would issue a block to somebody. I'm not sure how they did that, but the G11 from Gonset, and it's really good audio. If you're using the stock microphone, I'm impressed, because I know typically with the Hallicrafters and the Gonsets, the older models, you really have to kind of scream in the microphone. And I don't think you're having to do that too much. Of course, the Harvey Range Boost is helping a little bit for our receive, but that's okay. And I'm assuming that you are watching, if it's working, the Magic iTube and getting the little, I think that's the Pac-Man style. Was it the 6RE5? Something. Anyway, getting those little lights to get close together. Gonset W6VR was Robert Gonset's call, and believe it or not, he was. This is the guy that started the Gonset Communications. He is in one of the inductees into the CQ Hall of Fame. So I believe this radio also has the distinction of being advertised in a 1958 edition, one of the 1958 editions of QST, when they were sort of touting the new Class D 11-meter service, and it sort of irked a few people because the 11-meter service used to be an amateur radio item. And also, it seems that these radios always had, like, it's a little frequency display in front, or the frequency designation that may or may not have matched what the U.S. was doing. Let me stop talking, go back to you for another transmission, because we want to get as many radios in as possible before we sign out tonight. But that's a great find, and it is working great. I think you will be proud and pleased to hear how it sounds on the archives. Over.
Oh, Roger. The Magic Eye is real bright and real active. Yes, on front, frequency 27085, channel 8, the Canadian version.
Yeah, I think all the other stations that haven't, the picture we're still showing at old2radio.net, also has that Canadian channel. It's a great picture from SWO 135. It is his radio that we were seeing there. Just a perfect picture. And most of the Gonsets you see are in not that good a shape as all. But this is a new one, Harvey. It is really sounding good, no kidding. And it sounds like you haven't had to do much to it yet.
No, I haven't done much to it yet. It's real clean. I'm going to do, I'll go through, check tubes, do all that. But it's fired up and just was working. Okay.
There's something.
I'm going to turn it back to you, and I'm going to try and check in a couple more if I can sneak them in.
Comment?
Okay. We'll try and get as many as possible. The comment, go ahead.
On that sonar, why didn't they make it have a key down noise like the Eagle does, but just go, like sonar?
Well, maybe that was copyrighted on a real sonar. It was always hard to get a single transceiver to make a noise. You got to have the separate transmitters and receivers. Thanks for Radio 17, the Gonset G11, and I was going to mention the original price on those was $150 with their one channel, and you can know it's old when it's in Sam's PhotoFax CB1. We're counting and amounting and listening for the final radio check-ins.
Question for OTR.
Question about that G11.
All right, two questions. Let's take, Phil has a question, and then also Mike has a question. We'll see if we can get them answered. So if you are still listening, or maybe you are switching radios, Harvey, but the questions may be for you. So keep an ear out. Let's see. Question number one is, Phil, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Dennis. I believe you mentioned regarding the Gonset general wire and spring. Am I erroneous? Somehow or another, I associated that with general radios. Am I mistaken, or is there some commonality there over?
Okay, I might have misspoke. I believe it is the Young. Let me see if I've still got the Gonset time. I want to say it's the Young Spring and Wire Company. And I've lost my info that I had on that, but I want to say that is probably the correct name for that subsidiary.
Okay. Now, with the general radio telephones, is it the general spring and wire? The spring and wire is what stuck in my mind. Over.
Okay, that you've got me on that one. I'm not sure about that for general radio telephone, because they were out of beautiful downtown Burbank, and I'm just trying to get some info on the Gonset, because Gonset moved to California in 1916, and they established the company in Burbank. So they were also out of Burbank. So maybe there was some collusion between the two. Who knows?
Well, I may be confused. I just... it crossed my mind when I heard it, and I associated with Gonset. So thank you, Dennis. And the other questioner number two is next.
Okay, and yeah, I think the confusion stems because both of the companies were eventually, or at one point, out of Burbank. Let's see. The other question is SWL47. Hello, Mike.
Hey, so SWL 20, I'm curious, you were talking about that ID tag that's on the radio. Where was that? On Browning radios, I think that's the only one I have that actually has a tell on the right side of the transmitter, on the outside of the casing. You can tell they're little extended tabs where you can slide your ID card in there. On my Gonset, which of course I'm talking on right now, I can check it, I can check my phone as well. There are no extended tabs to fix any ID tag on there. So I'm curious how that thing was on there, Harvey. Oh boy.
Yeah, you really need to get in that microphone a little bit more. Harvey, are you still listening on frequency? Okay, he switched radios. Are you able to hear Mike at all? Over. All right, I think Harvey's listening. What was the question again? We can relay it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to scream into this microphone. So I'm curious how that ID tag was affixed to the G11 on a Browning radio on the transmitter. You've got these tabs on the outside of the keys, the transmitter keys, that you can actually slide that ID card into. On the gun, I mean, there's nothing. It's just a cage, and I don't see anything. There's no slot to put your ID tag in. I'm just curious as to how that thing's on his G11.
Got to grab the right mic. The ID tag is an old style, yellowish with brown border type of luggage tag with a string through the hole at the top. and it was wrapped around the power cord actually when I got the radio, but I moved it to around the mic cord in the front so I could get to it. And it was on there. Now it has the call letters of the station on there, and the address, and the name of the company. And also the radio had the call letters on dymo tape on the front top of the radio, and on the back top of the radio it says Organization Management Inc. for, I guess, another part of the company's name, I guess. But on the tag it said what it said. I can't quite get to it now. But it was just hanging. And I am so surprised that it lasted 50 years. But apparently it did, or 60. No, 50, I guess. Anyway, in 50 years, 1967. And if Dennis can tell us how long CB licenses were issued for before you had to renew them back in those days, might tell when the guy got the station.
Well, and I had one back in 1970, and I don't remember, and I've yet to find it. I know it's around here somewhere, but I think you're 5 years, because I think when I bought mine, it was either $8, and then they went up to $20, but it may have only been for 5 years, and I never renewed it, because at that time it would have been 1976, and you still needed a license, but they were getting so many people that they were sort of like, well, just make up a number and do it. So I think 5 years is a good guess on that until we know for sure. Also, just to clear up the other question, I got the confirmation. In 1958, the Gonset Company was sold to Young, Spring, and Wire Corporation. So it's very possible that any of the Gonset CB radios would somewhere have the word or the label for Young, Spring, and Wire Corporation.
Harvey, I hope I'm not cutting in on you. That's like really, really, really cool. None of my radios in my rather small collection have that ID tag on there. That's pretty cool. Harvey, you use the term to describe this labeling tape on the center top of the radio. What was that term you used? I'm sorry to ask it such a stupid question.
What was this question, Dennis? A little hard to hear.
Say it again. What about something about the tape on the radio?
Yeah, Mike, what was that?
Oh, yeah, the label on the radio, is it not manufactured by the radio? Is it one of those, they used to call it Dymo, I think Dymo tape labeler, is it one of those?
Yeah, where the call letters are stuck on to the front top of the radio, the guy used Dymo tape. Now, Dymo tape was invented in 1958, so, I mean, you know, that's okay. I mean, that Dymo tape could have been put on the day the guy got the radio in 58, 59, I don't know, 60, whenever he got the radio, because it was invented in 58, so I just could have done that. But yeah, it's in red on the front top, and on the back top it says Organizational or Organization Management Inc. So anyway, I'm leaving that on the radio, especially the call letters, because it's Kentucky Fried Chicken.
All right, yeah, that was his question. So it is one of the, that's another way you can tell it was old, because they're using the Dymo tape labelers that I doubt they make anymore, but you might find them on eBay or something. Now you have the Brother P-Touch, and it's on those little cellophane tape things. So it's classic all the way around. And another G11. I don't know. We've got enough G11s out there. We might have a Gonset night if the right people get out there. Radio 17, the Gonset G11, and I think you have one more here before we sign out. I think we have 2 more before you sign out. Go ahead.
This one hasn't been on in a while. It's my Browning Golden Eagle Mark IV with the Golden Eagle microphone on. The battery was dead, so I had to find a battery and stick in there.
Oh, a Mark IV. We don't hear many of those. Let me dial that up. That is, as I've been perusing a lot of the sites for CB radio on Facebook, I wasn't aware of how many people really, really like the Mark IV. It's very popular radio, and we don't hear that many. But we've got one now. It's radio at number 18.
Now, for me to get up to 20, I can do it on my own. But if somebody wants to stick one in between, I wouldn't mind. Anyway, this is the Mark IV. I've got the 776 mic, but it sounds terrible, so I don't use it. But anyway, this one I like, and with this mic, apparently it sounds okay.
All right, and it's my experience just from listening that the Mark IVs do not have that sharp, crisp sound like the Mark IIIs do. And you may have pegged it there that it's a microphone thing. It just seems like they just are a little bit dull, and maybe that is because I think there's a little more differences in the radio. 1977 is when those came out, and that basically they had to get 40 channels, and those were $900 when they first came out. All right, let's defer to SWL 47 Michael, who may save the day here if he's got radio 19. And yes, we're hearing it. I'm hearing it just fine, so it'll be great for a check-in. Over.
Boy, I plan to get dessert here. Another content?
That would be a good radio 19. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm sorry. So I know we're having chocolate. Well, I guess it's time to officially say good evening. Please check me in. It's SWL 47, the Re-Lounge. On another content, G11. I don't know how this works. Well, I guess if I practically swallow the microphone, I hope this. Well, I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you fine. It's got good audio. When you get too far in the microphone, it does do a little bit of flat topping. So it's hard to say if there's an issue maybe with some tubes inside, or if you're actually the microphone is putting out enough audio, but it just flat tops, and the microphone itself is having some issues with clarity because the element is so old. But I'm hearing it perfectly enough to get you checked in, and that is what we're going to do. What I'll do on the picture this time, and this is don't kill me on this one. We had the pristine, really nice picture from SWL 135, Mr. Green Arrow, that we showed last time. This time I'm going to show a picture that's probably a little bit more closer to a standard Gansett. It's sitting on a display table. It's not turned on. It's not quite as shiny and pretty as the one we showed before, but it is definitely worthy of the old tube radio network as you take your transmission.
Okay. Well, this one, I think it takes some finesse to use it the right way. Which of course I don't have. I can't tell when it's flat topping, when it's not. I just know that when you're literally, I mean, it feels like I'm almost playing a trombone mouthpiece. You almost swallow the microphone. You look at the Magic Eye tube, and it is moving. But let's just say that it definitely takes skill, I think, to use this to sort of make it work. So I was going to ask Harvey, and I think you addressed this a little bit. You said that there was a waffle-style microphone that he had on his D11. I don't on this one. This has I think someone called it the ice cream mic. It feels rather good. I want to say it's ergonomically correct. And I can't tell you that this one, I believe, was the G11 Mall 3303. I think this one came in 3-inch version. And I do have the cardboard box that this one came in, which is pretty cool, I think. and then it's the 3303. So I believe that meant that it was the 110 AC version of it. It did come with a 12 volt version and a 6 volt, but this is the 110 AC, the 3303.
All right, you are correct. Thanks for bringing that up. That's an interesting thing with the Gonsets. They were like the early E.F. Johnsons, where they had different model numbers, whether the radio was 12 volts, 6 volts, or 115 volts. The Gonset G11 3303, if you have a 3303, you should be looking for an AC cord out of the back of the radio. If you have a 3304, then there's probably some type of plug with 2 wires that will hook to your 12-volt DC, and that's what the model numbers were doing. So if you're plugging in, you're a 3304. I'm sorry, you're a 3303, over.
Okay. I was thinking, okay, how do I screw that one up? I do have a little bit of it. We always talk about this, or every other time I check it in. I do have that labeling tape, the DIMA, whatever tape on this. It does, the labeling tape, it's hard to see in the dark. I think it says channel 8. On the front of the radio, it says, it's spray painted on the base of the radio that it says channel number, and then you have the frequencies on there as well. It's spray painted on there, and then someone came on, put a crystal in the radio, and then stamp whatever channel you're on, and then again stamp the frequencies that you want. On the front of this guy, I got channel 11 stamped on there, and I can't, what is it? It says 27.115. So obviously the crystal's been changed, but thanks to the whatever DIMO, whatever labeling thing, I know if I go to Canada, apparently that I'm good for channel 8, which here is channel 11. So there it is. You need your typing for your listening pleasure.
All right. I don't think I've ever heard any Canadian skip on 11 meters. Obviously, it's fairly simple deal to talk to Canada on amateur radio, but on 11 meters, I can't honestly say I've ever heard a Canadian station coming in. So if they were, maybe they would be using that particular radio. All right, let's move on to Radio 20 so we can sign out here. We still have people listening in far-off places, and we appreciate that. We're having a great evening here checking in the radios. Also want to say hello to AGW 505, who's watching in on the video. Wonder if you've ever run across, talked to, or had your own Gonset radio. Thanks, Mike. I was worried. I don't think you didn't check in. Was it last week? I don't have you on the board. And I thought, well, maybe you never made it back from Christmas Tree Lane, or your big giant antenna on the TRC, the 217, got hung up on one of the pine trees there, and you were still kind of dangling. But I'm glad to hear your voice and your radios checking in. Let me run over to Harvey. So that he can officially be Radio 20 on a Browning radio, I bet, that I think I know the number of. Hello, Harvey.
Browning radio is the Golden Eagle R68T68 by Browning Laboratories, the Golden Beagle, and with the Browning medallion label on the back of the mic. 23 channels, no wave. Also, it's got the upper frequencies that somebody expertly put in where you can't tell that he did it unless you flip the fixed manual switch where it goes to fixed. It goes to the upper channel, which is interesting. The transmitter has no modifications to it at all, so I like that part. But if I want to listen above, I can flip that switch and do that. Okay, the Golden Beagle by Browning Laboratories. Back to you.
The original, or one of the first Golden Eagle series, the R68, T68, R68, the receiver, T68, the transmitter, and as the advertisement says, that we're seeing the Golden Eagle by Browning. There were soon to be the Mark II and the Mark III and the Mark IV, and we've heard at least the Mark III and the Mark IV tonight, but this was the one that started it all and got the craze going. And I want to say, what was the year for this? 1967, 1968. Still affordable. What? $400 Although that was the top of the line then, but okay. And before my radio dies here, and as my audio's slowly sinking into the west, so something is dying. Any other comments or questions before we do counting and amounting here? And it's nice to have, I know Harvey is agreeing with me on this one, it's nice to have 20 radios tonight.
You're not sure about next week, is that correct, Dennis?
Let's see, what next week is the 23rd? I think we'll be here.
Well, if you're here, I'm here. Yeah, I'll be here. Anyway, so hopefully you'll be there. It'll be a Christmas show.
All right, yeah, I wasn't, maybe I can get the tree going. I wasn't sure about this week, actually, but it seems to be working now, and it's working better than my audio equipment that seems to be slowly dying here. All right, we tried in the interim of all the radios here, Bozo Control and I running around to see if we could get the jingle singers into the mix, and maybe that's what we broke. Let's see if we did good here.
You're tuned to
OTR. Channel 11.
right here in
Fresno, California.
Stay with us
Old Tube Radio.
and be modern.
Okay, I know that sounded okay over the internet, but I'm not sure. Did that make it through on the transmitter?
Yes, it did.
All right, good deal. We're counting and amounting and listening. The Old Tube Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, time now for the current OTR totals.
All right, so the OTR totals before, who was saying letting the smoke out of something before all the smoke comes out of the control point here? I'm going to reconfigure all the audio gear back for the way I was using it in stereo. Let's see. Let's see if it's even capable of doing that. Capable tonight we were, as we did check in 20 radios. It's always fun. The more the merrier when it comes to your glow-in-the-dark radios. SWLs tonight did pretty well on that avenue as well. 10 on page 1, 14 on page 2, 16 on page 3, and 14 checking in on page 4 for a total of 54. We are in week 6. Next week will be week 7 on the roster list. Doesn't look like we added anybody new. And as far as I know, we will have a nice little Christmas holiday solstice. I don't know, what is it? Kwanzaa, Hanukkah. We'll have the big show. We'll have the big show here. We hope, assuming all the gear works. And if it doesn't, we still get out there on the frequency and check in your radio. Speaking of radios that checked in, first on the list tonight, Paul with a T-Craft Falcon, living up to his handle, the Falcon, the T-Craft Falcon Mark V radio phone. Leave it to Paul to find some of those radios that you may not have heard, seen, or know anything about, but they do exist. And thanks to our Tube Radio operators, they are right here at the Old Tube Radio Network. Sounding good, Paul. Just a reminder that everything is up in the archives to listen to, and we do keep the videos online for a while if you'd like to look at it that way. Radio number 2 tonight, SWL 25. Nice to hear Jerry in there. Had a little extra radio room time, and we appreciate hearing all the radios we haven't heard for quite some time. The General Radio Telephone MC5 in its repeat performance, not only with the tone alert, the tone call sounding nice, but the microphonium and the audio doing a good job as well. So hats off to you, Jerry, for getting that to work. Radio number 3, Chris on his General Radio Telephone Super MC11A. Oh, and did I mention I was supposed to mention. The most heard radio manufacturer tonight was the Brownings. And we had a three-way tie going for a while, but Brownings at 4. But we like them all. Speaking of Brownings, the radio number 4 tonight was the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB from Mr. Ed. That was followed by the Courier Royale from Chris at Radio 5. Radio 6, Paul on his Robin T240D. I think we got the full complement of the Robins, the trio of the Robins tonight. That was followed by the Robin T123 from Mr. Ed. Radio 7. It made it okay. If you listen to the archives, you'll hear it starting to do a crackling thing that is sort of new. Not the Frankenstein, but the crackle. The crackle I'm concerned about, the Frankenstein not so much. Radio number 8, the General Radio Telephone, no, the General Marine, let's try that again, the GEM. I can't read my writing, see? The GEM Marine Products G PowerMate from Chris, that was Radio 8. Radio number 9, the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB from Jerry, the one I actually got to operate. Thanks, Jerry. It was fun. Back in the day. Radio number 10, Chris on the Hallicrafter CB3A Little Phone. We actually had 2 Hallicrafter Little Phones tonight. E.F. Johnson, Messenger 223, Radio 11 from Mr. Ed, followed by Paul with his Robin T123B, the second in the line of the trios there. Mr. Sidekick 25 on the Hallicrafter CB3A, the full complements of the S-meter and the selectable, tunable VFO. Keep a hold of that one. That's probably rare to have all this stuff in there. Radio 14, Mr. Ed on the Tram TR27E with the Electro Voice 638 microphonium, followed by Chris's Chris 23 Plus, Radio 15, Radio 16, Jerry on his Sonar FS3023. Very nice audio with that. And then the first of our Gonset G11s tonight, the new Kentucky Fried Chicken version, Harvey on Radio 17. And many thanks to KFC 0145. If you are listening and you know that's your call, leave us a note at Facebook or at oldtuberadio.com and tell us more about that radio. I'm sure Harvey would appreciate it. It sounds good, Harvey. Nice audio. Radio 18, Harvey with his Browning Golden Eagle Mark IV, the 40-channel version. The Gonset G11 that we've come to know and love with Mike getting as close to the microphone as possible. Thanks for your extra effort. It doesn't sound bad. It just has that old tube radio sound. And what can we say? This is the old tube radio network. Thanks for the G11, Radio 19, and of course, Radio 20, the way it should be, right, Harvey? The Browning Golden Eagle R68, T68. Thanks to all who participated, listening, and who is still out there hanging in with us on whether it be Saturday night or Sunday morning. Hello to Dallas, Georgia, still in there. That's nice. And Chantilly, Virginia, our SWL's hanging in there. X4000, Nashville, Tennessee, watching in also at the YouTube video. We've got Southern California, Fresno, Madera, Utah, of course, on the Blue Tube. And looks like our technical crew, SearchLawrence.com, Frodex, and the gang out there. We appreciate the keeping the Nixie tubes glowing and the digital side running. I wish I could do as well, keeping all the stuff here in the studio running. Thanks to everyone there. And let me make sure there are no comments that I need to address on the video side, which we will be stopping here in just a moment. So good there. All right, 73, everybody. We're hoping to be here next week. We should be for the holiday version of, I don't know, maybe this is all the holiday versions of the Old Tube Radio Network. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Dennis. Great net, as always. Wonderful to hear you in here. Thank you very much.
And to all a good night. And Chris, give me a call on the telephonium.
Okay. I got to get the number here real quick.
Good night to one and all from SWL number 7.
Ed, it's Mike, 47. You still riding your bike around in the cold?
And good night on the YouTube video.
Good night. Nope, not out in the cold right now.